So in this video, we are going to talk a little bit more about the curriculum, a little bit more details, how it works, and how you use the One in Math system. So let's look at the some of the basic techniques of teaching. How do you help the students to find the answer? Now, when they're young students, one of the things that we notice is that people, the kids actually start to use fingers, and it's one of the easiest ways to teach them how to count. The problem is that there are only 10 fingers. As soon as you progress to the next module, you don't have enough fingers to count. And of course, people will try to repeat it and all those things, but it really doesn't work. That's number one. Number two, they get dependent on a certain body part to really count the numbers, and very soon people they will be working with larger numbers. So no fingers. So our rule is basically you don't want to have fingers. You can have pictures. You can use pictures like there's this example of the pictures right here of different dogs and stuff like that. You can use erasers, you can use pencils to actually show them, visually. Another good way to actually learn is the number lines. So we have actually a help module with the number line. There are instructions in some of these younger, smaller numbers modules like 0 to 5, 0 to 5, 6 to 9, 0 to 5, all those things. They actually have instructions and showing you how to actually use the number line to count. Counters are a great example. We use like beans, for example, like any small object, or even, as I said, erasers or pencils or anything that is available at home or at in the library, you can use them. And the other thing that you want to do is you want to always build on what they know. What does that mean? So let's say they know, let's say they know 5 plus 1. And they know 5 plus 2, and they know 5 plus 3. So what is 5 plus 1 is 6, 5 plus 2 is 7, 5 plus 3 is 8. Now they may struggle with 5 plus 4. So how do you actually now teach them? One of the ways to teach them is to say like, okay, hey, 5 plus 1 is 6, and 5 plus 2, which is 1 more than 1, is 7, and 5 plus 3, which is 1 more than 2, is 8. So what will be 5 plus 4, right? So that you're kind of building on what they know. That is the general concept. And other thing that really helps is counting out loud. Sometimes the students are actually, it's easier when say 5 plus 1, what is it? It's 6. What is 5 plus 2? So when they're counting out loud or they're speaking it aloud, it makes a lot of sense. Of course, mental math is the ultimate goal, right? Where we want them to compute in the head and give us the answers. Now, when you help, what we were just talking about this, which is like, how do you really help the students to build upon and find the answer? So the main thing is you never give the answer directly, or you try your utmost to not give the answer directly, because once you give the answer, the student thinks there's an easy way out. But what this technique does is it really builds their foundation, and they start to learn how to find the answers themselves. So you focus on sequence and pattern recognition. So the sequence is like what I was explaining, like when you have sequences, or we saw in the last video, everything is like based on sequence and patterns, and then we kind of switch the patterns, etc. So we're trying to develop that sense of sequence and patterns in the children. So now here's the example, right? So let's say we have 8 plus 7. And this child you see is struggling, what is 8 plus 7? If you see that they're struggling, now what can you do? You can ask, okay, hey, what is 8 plus 6? If they can answer 8 plus 6 is 14, then you can say, okay, 8 plus 6 is 14, and 7 is 1 more than 6. So 8 plus 7 will be how much? And they may not still answer, right? So you say, okay, let's see, what is 8 plus 6 is 14. So what is 8 plus 5? So 8 plus 5 is 13. And so if they know that, 8 plus 4, right, what is it? So what you will see is, so you have one of the ways to kind of make a decision. So you want to get to the point where you know that they start to know the answer. So maybe 8 plus 7, they don't know. 8 plus 6 also they don't know. 8 plus 5 also they don't know. 8 plus 4 also they don't know. Let's say they say 8 plus 4 is 12. Finally, they give you an answer. Okay, great. So if 8 plus 4 is 12, what will be 8 plus 5? Now you're starting to build upon that fact, right? And sometimes, you may want to go back to like, okay, what is 8 plus 3, 8 plus 2? So assuming that they know, and then you can start so that you can start to show them the pattern. You can say, what is 8? Let's say you went, even if they knew 8 plus 4, you went up to 8 plus 3, 8 plus 2, 8 plus 1, and they knew all those answers. So you say, okay, now 8 plus 1 is 9. So what is 8 plus 2? They'll say 10, right? So, okay, that it's 10. So you just repeat after them to say, okay, 8 plus 2, 2 is 1 more than 2. And so 8 plus 2 will be 1 more than 9, which will be 10. What is 8 plus 3? They'll say 11. We say, yes, so that's correct. 8 plus 3, 3 is 1 more than 2, and 8 plus 2 was 10. So 8 plus 3 would be 1 more than 10, so which is 11. Do you see the sequence, right? So 8 plus 4. So that's how you start building up. And when they get to 8 plus 4, which is what they knew, it's okay, what is now 8 plus 5? And 8 plus 5 would be, either they will now start to recognize the pattern. They'll say, okay, 13. If they can, then you always reminding them it is 1 more than 4. So hence, what will be the answer? It will be 1 more than 12. So what is 1 more than 12? That's how you would actually work with 8 plus 5 is 13. And then same thing with 8 plus 6, and then 8 plus 7, etc. Right? The other thing that you can do is, you can use the math fact. So one is the sequence building. The other is like, okay, you don't know 8 plus 7. Do you know what is 7 plus 8? If they knew 7 plus 8 and say, oh, that's like, if 7 plus 8 is 15, then what will be 8 plus 7? So you're again asking them the question, implying that the answer is the same, right? Means in your tone of voice. And they would say, oh, okay, yeah, it's 15. If not, then you can actually show them, okay, if 7 plus 8 is 15, then 8 plus 7 is a reverse, and that is the same. It's a math fact. So I think, yes, we just talked about number line, and you can, of course, you want them to recall from memory. So this is an important concept to know how to teach. The other thing that you want to do is, when you're assessing the child, if they've mastered the packet. So we talked about like, okay, you're done with the packet. Now you want to make sure that the student is able to actually answer the questions in the packet, and you ask for smaller numbers, you ask orally. For the larger numbers like, 27 plus 48, you will ask them in writing. So you will write it down on a piece of paper, and then you'll say, okay, solve this problem, right? And as I said before, the last page of every packet, or especially the eval packet, has all the combinations of the whole module. The last page of the eval packet has the combinations of the whole module. So you can pick from there, or you can use your own intelligence, look what the numbers are. It's not like rocket science. And then you can ask them those questions. And you want to focus on the bigger numbers first. Usually kids would know the smaller numbers in general. So you want to quickly assess, right? So how will you quickly assess? So let's say it's add 0 to 5, 0 to 5, add 5 as one of the packets. And you want to assess if they know about fives, add 5, then you can start with 5 plus 5, 4 plus 5, 5 plus 4, 5 plus 3. These are the bigger numbers instead of starting with 5 plus 0 or 5 plus 1 or 5 plus 2. So that's the general idea. So that's about, assessing the child, that they mastered a packet. Now, some guidelines of what you do or you don't do. So let the child do the problem. Do not do the problems for them, because if you do the problems for them, they'll never learn, right? So and most of us have this tendency to kind of give the answer, right? But patience is key. So watch over your child. If struggling, help them to find the answer. Don't give them the answers directly. Okay. We saw how to actually work with them in some of these cases. Similarly, you would work with multiplications, and then, division, of course, a little bit harder, but you understand the concept. And now the other thing is, we talked about also, I think, when they're doing the packet, when you're actually on the table and you notice that the child is making a mistake, point it out right away. Do not wait for them to finish the packet, because, and the way you do that is you say, oh, let's say the child wrote 8 plus 5 is 14. So, oh, interesting. What 8 plus 5? Let's reconsider this answer. What is 8 plus 4? Again, you just go back. 8 plus 4 is 12, whatever, whenever that sequence comes. And so now what is 8 plus 5? Then you'll hopefully say 13 at some point in time. You say, okay, now let's fix it down. So he will erase it and then write it down, right? So that way you are actually working with them. And the idea is you never put the child down. You never try to tell the child, oh, it's a shame that you don't know the answer. Oh, look, already done it. Why don't you know the answer? You're always polite. You're always trying to work with them very respectfully. Like, hey, let's consider the answer. Let's reconsider, what the answer might be. What is it? Let's see. So you're trying to just be friendly and being respectful at the same time and still working with the child. And you work with the child speed. Some children are slow, right? So when you ask for 8 plus 5, they may take like a good 5 seconds or 10 seconds to answer. You just kind of keep prodding them or keep encouraging them. Do not rush them, because if you rush them, they will lose that confidence and they will be shaken up. And so you don't do that. And if they have figured out the problem, there's the other point, right? So watch what the student is. You can notice the eye movement of the child. And if they're starting to copy from whatever, so let's say there's a sheet right here and they have solved this problem here, and now there's a problem, the problem here, and they're looking at this and then doing it, you can see the movement of their eyes. And so you want to make sure that they're not copying. If they're copying, then just hide it, or kind of fold the paper a little bit or something. Just hide it with another paper. You're like, okay, hey, why don't you do it, let's see, where you're struggling, So work with them. All right. So the next part is, how do you assign the next packet? Because that's a big piece of your, what you choose to do, how you make the decision is really an important part of making sure that the child is having a great experience. Now, if the child is struggling, so when you evaluated, you saw that the child is struggling, and for smaller numbers, you see that they're counting on fingers or they're taking too long to answer, unable to answer. So these are all like general signs that maybe, okay, I need to kind of help them. They need to get more solid. You maybe want to repeat that packet. And if they have mastered the packet, they're answering confidently, they're answering quickly, then, you just want to move to the next packet. Watch out for sometimes silly mistakes, There's a difference between them making a silly mistake versus that they actually have a lack of understanding. And the way you can identify that is, if they made one mistake, you ask 2 or 3 problems and then you ask the same problem again and see if they actually correct it this time. Or, then you can stop like, is that so? So you can just, you can get a feel that, they're making silly mistakes, but sometimes they actually do not understand, and they are actually making the mistakes. You don't want to make them feel bad. You can say, oh, okay, that's fine. So you're making that call, right? You say, okay, he's struggling. Either I will give them that one specific packet of that particular number that he's struggling with, or, just maybe write down a few of these problems to do the practice, or, or you just make a decision that, okay, we want to kind of, have you repeat this packet, etc. All right. So let's say, now that we've gone through that, now the question is about, printing or uploading the packet. How do you do that, right? So first thing is, whatever packet you have in the hand, from the child, the first page always gives you this current module, which is 6 to 9, and then dash is basically a way to kind of separate, and then it tells you facts, right? So this is the packet name, and this is the module name. So so you basically then go to oneinmath.com math sheets, which you already been there. You pick this particular module, you click on that, and then you check out the packet. Now, one thing is, before you do this, we have noticed that these are very similar numbers, like add 0 to 5, 0 to 5, add 5, and 6 to 9 to 0 to 5 to add 5. These are completely 2 separate packets at 2 separate levels, right? So you want to make sure that you are really watching out for these numbers. It's 6 to 9 to 6 to 9, or it is 0 to 5 to 0 to 5, for example, right? So, and then it's an addition or it's a subtraction, because the add 6 to 9, 0 to 5 also has a subtraction 0, 6 to 9 to 0 to 5. So you want to be very careful that, you're not confusing between 6 to 9, 6 to 9 to 6 to 9 to 0 to 5, or, 6 to 9 to 6 to 9 to sub 6 to 9 to 6 to 9, or something like that, right? So watch out for every word. All right. So now you got to the actual module. You clicked on that module, on the website. Now you see this page. We have seen this before. And you would now pick like facts, right? So this is the module, the packet that they were working on. And the next packet is doubles, right? So that's the one that they're going to work on. So print one of these packets. Usually you would print the packet no answers. And that's basically what you're going to do. And now when you actually decide this packet, now if you're going to hand over this packet to them, one is the printing, right? So you saw how to find out which packet to download to actually put it in the USB or something, or on the Google Drive. Now, the question is, when you have the packet and you're handing it to the student, what do you do? So you read the instructions. Sometimes, or many times, there is actually instructions of how to actually, what concept to actually talk to them. In this particular case, like for the facts, it was like if A plus B is equal to C, then B plus A is also equal to C, right? 6 plus 8 is 14, then 8 plus 8. That's the concept you're trying to teach them. So then you want to give that instruction. So you open up the first page and you actually work with these answers. So you actually work with, okay, 5 plus 5 is 10. Okay, there's reverse of 5 plus 5 is also 5 plus 5, but 5 plus 6 and 6 plus 5. So you can actually talk to them. You can show like, okay, 5 plus 6 is 11. Then 6 plus 5 is a fact that they are both the same and the answer is 11, right? So same thing for the 12s. So that's what you want to do. We talked about the word problems, so the main thing to focus on is more or less, or, those kinds of concepts. And we talked about the eval modules, right? Means the last packet is always there. The one question is, that sometimes it comes up is, if a student does the packet before the eval as a classwork. So let's say he did the word problems as a classwork, the next packet is eval, then what do you do? Which packet do you give for homework? That's a question, right? So because you can't give this eval as the homework. So usually the answer is, you would give the next module the first packet. Okay, that's what you would give for the homework. You will explain that packet, but then when they come back, you would do the eval the next class. All right. Okay, so this is an example of the eval packet. After the student has worked on add 6 to 9 to 6 to 9 eval packet, what would you do? You would ask a few questions, right? And here's the example, right? Orally, you can ask 9 plus 9, 9 plus 8, 8 plus 9. So these are again like the higher numbers of that range, right? 6 to 9 to 6 to 9, 9s and 8s and 7s are higher numbers, right? And if they're struggling repeatedly, like let's say if the student is struggling with 6 plus 8 and 8 plus 6, repeatedly in eval or oral evaluation, but can do other problems comfortably, what would you do, right? If they're only struggling in this number, we have noticed like, typically 8s and 9s are the harder numbers. So they'll struggle with a 9 plus 8 or 7 plus 9 or something like that, just or with 8s. If this is what happens, then that they're struggling with 6, right? With these numbers. So you want to give 6 to 9, add 6, right? And have them repeat. And then you go back to the eval and then again ask them to make sure that they're able to do the eval of the whole module again, right? So that's basically what you do. If the student is struggling with a few combinations, so let's say it is not just one number, they're struggling with 7s and 8s and 9s or whatever, you have a choice. You have a choice to repeat the specific packet, but if there are a few combinations, you can just go to the review, if you remember, the review add sub, and then pick this particular packet in this review module, which is actually representing all the numbers of the module add 6 to 6, 6 to 6. Okay, so that's the thing that you can do. All right. Now, this is a role play that we do in the class. So as this is a video, we're going to stop here. Thank you very much.